Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Personal Details Podcast. I'm your host, 3, and today we're talking about living single in the winter in a big city like New York, discussing how it changes our routines, limits our social lives, and forces us to slow down in ways we don't always expect. If you're a single woman in a big city like me, you might be feeling this shift, especially recently. The cold weather makes outdoor activities less appealing, and with the rise of flu season and respiratory issues, I found myself doing more work at home, grocery store runs, and limiting unnecessary social interactions. But instead of looking at this situation as a restriction, I've started seeing it as a seasonal reset. So grab a warm drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. I will know love when I realize relationships never die. They change. Some people stay in unsatisfying relationships just to be able to say they stayed. At times, we stay simply because we are tired of walking away, or we may stay for the bragging rights, to be able to say, I did my best. I really tried hard. I gave all I had to give. Until today, you may have considered yourself brave for staying in a relationship or other situation because you knew how to stay. Just for today, be devoted to elevating why you stay, what you must do to stay, and whether or not it's causing you spiritual pain. The affirmation is, today, I am devoted to the examination of my motives and methods for staying in a relationship or situation where I could possibly get hurt. Let me clean that up. Today I am devoted to the examination of my motives and methods for staying in a situation where I could possibly get hurt. Say it with me. Today I am devoted to the examination of my motives and methods for staying in a situation where I could possibly get hurt. Thank you. Winter in the city has its own vibe, especially New York City. The energy slows down, people are bundled up, sometimes grumpy, rushing from one warm space to another, and those spontaneous nights out start to feel like an effort. And honestly, I feel it too. During the warmer months, I'm all about the outside. I will head to the park, I'll head to the beach, long walks, open ear markets, and checking out other events. Because this is New York City and there's a lot to offer. But what happens once winter hits? That routine shifts. And while I used to resist it, I've come to embrace it. It's a time to lean in. Lean into the cozy and intentional living. Each day that I head on out and head into work, I go from, I guess you could say, not the suburbs exactly, but I head into the city. So I don't live in the city. I live in a different borough. New York is divided into boroughs for all my international and non-New York City listeners. So we have 5 boroughs, and one of them is Manhattan, and Manhattan is New York City. When you talk about New York State, you're talking about upstate, which we don't count as New York City. Although the capital, Albany, is up there. Anyway, the commute and all that stuff can be draining. I feel like in the winter, I can't wait for Friday. Like, can't wait. And not because I have something to do or I want to go out. I can't wait for Friday because I want to be home. I want to intentionally be cozy and warm and home. So with this winter, things like grocery shopping is a whole event. One of the biggest changes in my routine is how I approach grocery shopping. Before, it was a quick, maybe even daily stop on my way home from work. But now it's a mission. I plan my grocery trips like I'm mapping out a strategy. What can I get in one trip to avoid going back out in the cold? Now, luckily, I have a bodega on the corner, right? But I know for some people that is not the case, and we are doing big weekend trips to either a big box store or some fairly large supermarket to catch everything in one spot. My Caribbean people, Saturdays is a mapped out strategy. You have the fish market, the meat store, the supermarket. Then you may have to go to specific supermarkets, right? Because all supermarkets are not created equal and they won't have what you want. So for my Caribbean people, winter makes it even more challenging. Shout out to all the people who have older family who leave. They just leave and go somewhere else during the winter, which, can you blame them? So back to what I was saying. What's worth picking up in one trip versus getting it delivered? I love getting delivered groceries in the wintertime. In the summer, I kind of look forward to going grocery shopping. Honestly, there's something satisfying about going into the store, finding exactly what I need, and then heading back home to stock up for the week. If you're also limiting your time outside, what's on your grocery strategy? Are you a meal prepper or whatever I see I grab type of shopper? I think it depends also if you're driving or walking. Because, of course, the more things you can carry, are the more things you're going to get. You just throw it in the car and go. But if you have to walk with a bag, you're definitely getting a bag full of groceries. So the other thing I definitely have to address is the social life shift. This one hits the hardest. I love being outside and about. I love taking the walks, going to the ocean, going to the park, or being with great people. But in the winter, I have to be mindful. Instead of dinner meetups or impromptu get-togethers, I'm doing more FaceTime calls, voice notes, and group chats. Honestly, I love a good voice note. If you've been listening for a while, you know I have an episode full of voice notes during the pandy when we weren't seeing each other, but we were leaving voice notes. Shout out to Eva. But it's a perfect way to stay connected without needing to be on a full video call or a full phone call, because I can leave voice notes while I walk around and cook and clean and still feel connected to my ladies. We send each other voice notes at least 3 times a week. So that's one definite way to go. I also find that winter makes me more intentional about who I see and when. The casual, hey, let's hang out becomes, okay, when and where can we meet in a way that makes sense for both of us? And that's not a bad thing. Here in New York City, I don't think anyone is trying to go into the city much. The city is now totally associated with work in my mind. And now with congestion pricing, definitely not just heading into the city for a casual dinner if I'm not already at work. If I'm at work, that changes things. In the winter, definitely I'm not trying to hang out too late, and I'm definitely hanging out maybe once a week instead of like 2 to 3 times a week, the way that the summer makes you just want to relax and chill out after work. So if I'm not coming straight from work to meet up with you, I'm not coming, because it is too cold to try to, one, I'm not delaying time by hanging out in the office. 2, if I have to travel too far, I'm going to fall asleep and something can happen to me on the train. And 3, I'm not spending an Uber if it's not taking me home. So wintertime calls for intentional. Definitely, for sure, we can say that. What does come with wintertime is some solitude. And you have to really figure out how to be in solitude and find indoor joy. Being single in a big city means leaning into being your best company, your very own best company. And winter really puts that to the test. But instead of leaning into feeling isolating, I lean into what makes me happy indoors. So my happy indoors list: food, check. Cozy blankets, check. A new crochet project, always. A good playlist or audiobook or an actual paper book, definitely essential. And trying new recipes with the food I've gotten delivered or picked up on a Friday night for a long weekend, let's go. So that's my list for like surviving the indoor isolation and self-time. This is also a time of year when I dive deeper into personal projects like this podcast and my creative work. Instead of looking at winter as a time of restriction, I see it as a season to reset, recharge, and refocus. Speaking of recharge and refocus, next segment of this episode is the Crystal Gem Zone. And I'd like to introduce you to the perfect winter crystal. For this episode, I'm highlighting the amethyst. It's a purple stone with different variations in it. It's a powerful stone for calm, clarity, and protection, which is perfect for the winter season when we're spending more time indoors and focusing on self-care. It helps with reducing stress and anxiety, which can creep in when we're feeling isolated or out of sync with our usual routines and our usual friends. It's also great if you're also with roommates, or you live with family, or you live with someone else, to help balance it out. Amethyst is good for intuition and reflection, two things that winter naturally invites us to embrace. If you're feeling a little restless during these colder months, keep an amethyst crystal nearby. Maybe it's in your workspace, under your pillow, or even in your pocket. Let it be a reminder to slow down, breathe, and trust the season you're in. Do you use crystals during the winter? Let me know. What's your go-to stone for this time of year? I do want to take a moment to also get into my personal details. Yes, this is a very personal type episode because it's about how I am navigating winter in the city, but also to catch up on, since this year has started, many things are going on. And I personally am just focusing on focusing, like not getting slowed down by the BS, right? I'm also just looking for opportunity in this season, in this time of chaos and turmoil. And what can I control? Myself, my reactions, making sure I plan, making sure I take advantage of whatever is out there, I think is very important in this time. There are some things that I have done to kind of feel comfortable in this time. I remember the day of the election, I went out to vote. Right after I voted, I went to the bank and I withdrew enough money to cover my rent for a month, right? My emergency fund. Because I wanted to make sure that if all hell went loose, I had a backup plan. And I think that's what it is. A lot of people are prepping. There are people definitely looking at their food supply. They're looking at having things on the go. I recently set up a plan with my family in case we get separated and we need to reconnect. We have a connection zone. We have somewhere that we can all try to make our way to. That's not the house, right? This is for if you can't get to the house, we're going to all meet up there. So I would advise having that plan as a way or a strategy. Also having water, having sources of fuel, candles, sternos, foil pans. So a sterno and a foil pan or a tea light can be a sense of light, can help you cook things. I keep a little jug in the bathroom and it has water in it, and it's not for drinking. It's more for what if I need to take a shower and there's little water, or what if I need to flush the toilet, Things to think about in this city. Because the way some of our so-called world leaders of this country are acting, we might find ourselves on the bad end receiving feedback from other countries. There are other people like Canada, for example. Many states are getting power from Canada, electricity. So it would be very smart not to press our luck with our allies to the north. Keep your eyes open and ready for when the stock market levels out. Right now, it's been a little volatile. It's been some dips in the stock market. If you're not on the stock market, you can start small, but you should be. I'm not an expert. I do what feels good. I also use companies, I buy stock in companies that I use their products, like Costco's on the stock market, Etsy's on the stock market, So is Tesla, but I'm good. Tesla's stock has dropped ridiculously in the last couple of days. I wonder why. Anyway, this is not a political podcast, but it's about life, so I have to throw it in there. I have been watching on social media people laying blame, and I'm at a point where I'm like, forget blame. What are we going to do about this? And I almost feel like everyone is just going along and getting along, The media, the politicians, the government works for us. So if they're trying to turn themselves into an oligarchy, then should the people not rise up and make their voices be heard that they are not happy with this? Because the way I see it is, I think they're like drinking their own Kool-Aid. Because the speaker, the I forgot her name, the press lady, came out and was like, it's always been the Gulf of America. I was like, what? What did they feed her? This blatant whitewashing and over-mansplaining. This man, and by now I hope you know who I'm talking about, has claimed that his team has found money for the U.S. Show me the money. Show me the money. Let's not just take this to face value. I saw this one man post saying, yay, we're all getting checks. I was like, from where? This man is trying to secure the bag for himself. Anywho, I have been working out almost daily. And by working out, I mean dancing, because I'm not going jogging. The mornings have been cold and snowy, so I'm not going walking. But I'll put on some headphones and do a little dance, and I feel better leaving in the morning after a nice dance-a-thon. And when I don't, I feel the difference. In terms of balancing, I mentioned a little bit about going out after work, but I really didn't get into what's the work-life balance when it's wintertime. It's very easy for me to stay late at the office because I don't want to be in the crowds of the commute. If I leave early, I'm going to be in the commute crowd. So I can end up staying almost till 8 o'clock and doing work. But I also want to go home. It takes me 45 minutes each way to travel into work. So that's just about 2 hours of my day I'm commuting for no reason but commuting. The other thing is, I can anticipate them saying private and public companies have to return to the office. Just saying. Anywho, in terms of work and being single in the city, it's important to at least once a month, even if it's the winter time, plan something to do. preferably with someone. So something with someone, but also something with yourself. We must be first our best company. We tell ourselves how to treat ourselves. So it makes sense that we know what that ask is going to be, because we're going to meet a partner that's going to be a giver. And you need to be ready to let them know what you need. And for folks who are not in that space of asking and getting what they need, it can be very, tough to let someone else provide for you. So with that said, winter won't last forever. The days are definitely getting longer and I'm seeing more sunshine. It may, of course, go back to freezing cold, but that is what it is. And we just embrace it for that. We'll be right back. We're not done yet. It's time for the music. If you're new, I invite you to visit my Spotify playlist called Play the Details. The link will be in the show notes. It's available on Spotify. And almost every episode, I add songs to it. And in this episode, I'm definitely going to be adding 3 songs with a perfect winter vibe. Song number 1, Good Days by SZA. Because we all need that reminder that better days are coming. Snow on the Beach by Taylor Swift and Lana Del Rey. It's a moody, dreamy, it fits the winter slowdown, And then Love Me Right by Amber Mark. It's a nice, soulful, vibey track that makes any solo night at home feel, kind of luxurious. So that's 3 songs we've added to the Personal Details Spotify playlist. Speaking of luxurious, try to make time to get a full bath with rose petals or something that smells great. Baths can be a really good thing in the winter between the contrast of cold and heat, to help boost your immune system as well. So that's another option, taking a nice warm bath. So yeah, let's keep the conversation going. Make sure to check the show notes for all the things. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to play and follow the Personal Details Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. If you're looking for something creative to do this winter, check out my Etsy shop for crochet items to keep you warm. And if you're a crocheter, check them out anyway for inspiration. If you like to journal and take that deeper dive that I mentioned before and get things kind of recorded and prepped and done, then check out one of my journals or check out both. One journal is called the Hibiscus Journal and the other one is called One Day at a Time. And that journal comes in 2 different sizes. The journals that I have on Amazon are not just blank pages. They offer you the space to put your thoughts, put your ideas, put actual items on the pages. So check the show notes for that. I've really had a great time today thinking about this topic, and I hope that it's sparked some thought about navigating in the winter, but also gave you some tools of how to navigate the winter better if you are one of those persons that get the seasonal allergies and the winter blues. Those are a real thing, the winter blues. So yeah, with that said, winter won't last forever. The days are getting a little longer, and soon we'll be back outside enjoying the city in all its vibrant glory and lively chaos. But for now, I'm embracing this season for what it is. If winter has slowed you down, how are you handling it? What small joys are keeping you going? DM me, drop a comment. Spotify lets you drop comments, so if you're listening there, great. You can also listen to me by going directly to my website, www.3madeit.com, and scrolling down to the latest episode. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, but I don't tweet much. So Instagram, at the personal details, one straight word. You can also find me on other platforms, YouTube, as well as a Facebook group page for the podcast. So I forgot, big announcement. I am looking for co-hosts. I'm looking for panel for folks to serve on my Women's History Month panel. And I'd like to have some men on my panel for Women's History Month. It's important that we recognize we need each other, you know? You can't be a father without a mother in the biological sense. So we need each other. So I would love to hear from some men with advice for women, and then with some women about how they are keeping their light shining, being a mother, daughter, cook, cleaner, bottle washer, and all the things in between. So yeah, if you're interested, send me a DM, send me a message. If you know me personally, send me a WhatsApp note. It may make it onto the show. So without further ado, I am bidding you farewell. You made it. This is the end. Have a great rest of your day wherever you may be listening from, and I'll check you out soon to share more details. Bye for now.